Imagine the sky above you turning into a battlefield. No trenches, no front lines, only vast ocean beneath and distant thunder ahead. You look up, and instead of clouds, you see aircraft carving trails through the air like spears thrown by unseen giants. Engines roar, metal vibrates, the horizon shimmers with heat and tension, and somewhere out there beyond your sight, two fleets search for each other in a deadly hunt, where whoever sees first strikes first. Now imagine this, a battle where the opposing ships never see each other, a clash decided entirely by aircraft hundreds of miles away, a confrontation so new, so unprecedented, that even admirals weren't sure what the rules were, because the rules were being written in real time. It is early May 1942. In the Coral Sea, the world's first great carrier versus carrier showdown is about to ignite, a duel of nerves, reconnaissance, timing, and precision. Every second counts. Every wrong move can doom an entire task force, and every pilot launching into the sky knows that failure means disappearing into the endless blue without a trace. This is the moment where the Pacific War shifts, where strategy leaps forward decades in a single week, where modern naval warfare is born. Welcome, history warriors. I'm Knightley. You're about to witness history like never before, and the story begins long before the first aircraft takes flight. To understand the clash, you must first understand the world on fire. The year is 1942. The Pacific is a vast arena stretching from Australia's northern shores to the scattered chains of islands that dot the ocean like stepping stones. Control of these waters means control of supply lines, troop movement, and strategic dominance. After a rapid string of early victories in the Pacific, one force pushes southward, seeking to isolate Australia and sever Allied communication routes across the region. Another force, battered yet determined, races to halt the advance before a door to the entire southern hemisphere swings open. In early May, reconnaissance intercepts and decoded messages point to a looming operation aimed at capturing Port Moresby, a location whose fall could split Allied power in the Pacific. To stop this, multiple task forces converge, weaving through the Coral Sea's shimmering waters. The air is humid, the wind warm, the horizon deceptively calm. Beneath the stillness lies tension thick enough to taste. Every carrier, cruiser, and destroyer carries the weight of entire nations on its decks. Facing off across hundreds of miles are two naval philosophies, shaped by different histories. Carrier groups maneuver like dueling shadows, each searching for the other, each preparing to strike with aircraft that can cross the ocean in minutes. For the first time, a major fleet engagement will unfold without battleships exchanging heavy fire. Instead, pilots will determine the fate of ships the size of cities. Both sides understand what is at stake: Port Moresby's fate, Australia's security. Momentum in the Pacific War. A single victory or defeat can tilt the balance across half the world. Yet even with high stakes, an odd quiet blankets the sea. No storm, no gunfire, just the distant hum of engines and the silent motion of fleets advancing into uncertainty. It is the calm before chaos. The moment before the first scout spots a speck on the endless horizon. The instant before a sky of peace transforms into a sky of fire. The Coral Sea stretches out like a glittering expanse of opportunity and danger. Beneath its calm surface, fleets maneuver with deliberate precision, each commander attempting to outthink the other in a contest of prediction and nerve. Nothing in naval history has prepared them for what is coming, and yet each must act with absolute certainty. Every order may be the one that saves thousands or sends them into oblivion. For the advancing fleet, the goal is clear: secure Port Moresby. Doing so would extend a protective arc across the northern approaches to Australia and tighten a strategic noose around Allied operations. The plan depends on coordination, carriers providing aerial cover, invasion groups moving swiftly, and diversionary forces distracting enemy reconnaissance. Timing, above all, is their sharpest weapon. For the opposing fleet, the objective is equally unmistakable: stop the advance at any cost. They have fewer ships, fewer carriers, but one decisive advantage: intelligence. Thanks to intercepted signals and rapid analysis, they know the approximate timeline of the approaching operation. They understand that striking first is their only chance of tipping the scales. Surprise is their shield, speed is their lifeline. At the center of this tightening web of strategy stand the commanders, each a product of different training, personality, and doctrine. One of the leading figures is a calm, analytical strategist known for patience and precision. He studies maps like chessboards, always considering multiple layers of possibility. His counterpart is more instinctive, guided by experience and battlefield intuition. He trusts his gut, believes in decisive blows, and values initiative above theoretical perfection. These men will never meet, yet in the coming days their choices will clash with the force of a tidal wave. Aircraft carriers serve as the beating heart of both fleets. Massive decks stretch like floating runways, lined with aircraft waiting for the moment their engines roar to life. Dive bombers, torpedo planes, and fighters, each with its own deadly role. Pilots refine their routines, quick takeoff sequences, formation discipline, attack runs drilled repeatedly until instinct replaces thought. Mechanics work ceaselessly, tools clattering as they adjust engines, refine fuel mixes, and repair worn components from earlier operations. The crews sense what is coming. They can feel it in the unusual quiet of the mess halls, in the clipped conversations between officers, in the way lookout points remain manned long after official shifts end. Every eye scans the distant horizon. Every ear listens for aircraft engines that are not their own. Weather reports become sacred texts. A single cloud bank might grant concealment or rob scouts of visibility. Sudden squalls could ground aircraft or mask fleet movements. Strategists pore over charts showing wind direction, humidity, and sunrise angles. In a carrier battle, sunlight is a weapon, blinding pilots at the wrong moment or illuminating silhouettes against the dawn. Reconnaissance becomes the decisive game. Long-range patrol planes sweep the ocean in spreading arcs, searching for shadows, shapes, or wakes that break the water's surface. A single misidentified vessel can alter the course of the operation. Every pilot taking off for a scouting run feels the weight, find the enemy, and don't get found yourself. Yet both sides face the same maddening uncertainty. The ocean is too vast, the fleets too mobile, and the carriers too valuable to risk reckless movements. Each commander must guess the other's position, path, and intention. A wrong guess could leave the fleet exposed, but hesitation invites disaster. The tension becomes a living thing, coiling, tightening, waiting. In officers' quarters, the mood shifts between confidence and unease. Charts lie scattered across tables like battlefield riddles. Course corrections are issued with careful deliberation. Telegrams buzz through communication rooms, coded messages flickering between ships and headquarters. This is a war fought not only with steel and aviation gasoline, but with mathematics, psychology, and cryptic fragments of information. From above, the Coral Sea appears serene. But beneath that glittering surface, minds lock into combat long before the first aircraft launches. The battle has already begun, silently, invisibly, through planning, reconnaissance, and the relentless search for strategic advantage. And as the fleets draw closer, a single thought runs through every commander's mind. Who will strike first? Night settles over the Coral Sea like a dark curtain, swallowing the last streaks of sunset. Yet neither fleet rests. Red-lit rooms glow aboard carriers as navigators trace projected enemy routes, compasses turning slightly with each new fragment of information. Intelligence officers sift through decoded transmissions, piecing together timelines as if assembling a shattered map. Nobody speaks loudly. The air is too heavy for casual words. On one flagship, the leading commander studies the ocean grid chart. His face reveals little, calm eyes, controlled breathing, steady demeanor. But beneath that control lies a sharp awareness. He is guiding thousands of lives through uncharted tactical territory. The carrier era is still young, its doctrines half-written, its risks immense. He knows every decision will be scrutinized by future historians, yet he cannot afford the luxury of hesitation. Far across the sea, his counterpart walks the deck of his own flagship. He prefers open air to the confines of planning rooms. The rhythmic crash of waves steadies him. He is more instinctive, more willing to gamble, but he gambles only when he senses weakness. His belief is simple. Speed wins battles. Strike fast, strike hard, and shape the battlefield before the enemy fully understands what is happening. Pilots move through their routines like a disciplined swarm. In ready rooms, they pore over recognition manuals, Silhouettes of ships, flight patterns, estimated enemy aircraft capabilities. They rehearse attack formations in the air and on the floor, tracing paths with their fingers, imagining the descent angles of dive-bombing runs. Many are young, some barely past their teens, but their training has been sharpened by the urgency of the Pacific War. Torpedo bomber crews practice synchronized maneuvers. Their aircraft fly low and straight, easy targets if intercepted. They rely on coordination with fighters and dive bombers to distract and divide enemy defenses. The risk is immense, and every crewman understands that launching a torpedo run may be a one-way mission. Still, they prepare without complaint. Duty outweighs fear. On the engineering decks, mechanics labor endlessly. Aircraft engines are tuned to peak performance. Deck elevators are checked for smooth operation. Fuel crews review safety protocols again and again. One spark, one mishandled hose, and an entire carrier could vanish in a flash of flame. Sweat, oil, and metal form a constant smell that clings to uniforms and stays beneath fingernails. Meanwhile, reconnaissance expands. Long-range scouts fly pre-dawn missions, returning with reports that sketch the enemy's possible movements, but never provide certainty. The ocean is too vast, and the fleet's too cautious. Every sighting is like a whisper, useful but incomplete. This uncertainty gnaws at commanders. Allied analysts issue updated projections. The opposing fleet is likely divided into multiple groups, with one carrier force screening the invasion convoy while another moves independently to the north. But analysis is still guesswork. The challenge is determining which group holds the carriers, the heart of enemy striking power. Aboard the Southern Fleet, tension grows with each hour. They know the approaching operation is imminent. They know the invasion force must soon reveal itself, yet they still lack the one piece of information that will determine their opening move: exact enemy carrier positions. Even the sea seems aware of the stakes. Wind patterns shift unpredictably at night. Cloud cover thickens, then disperses without warning. Scouts report patches of haze and rolling fog that could conceal or confuse. Meteorologists debate weather fronts with rare urgency, knowing visibility might win or lose the first blow. At last, an intercepted transmission suggests the enemy carriers are close, perhaps less than a day's sailing away. But the information lacks coordinates. Two commanders, hundreds of miles apart, tighten their grip on their respective strategies. Both believe they will strike first. Both believe their plan will define the battle. Both believe fate leans toward them. The ocean, silent and impartial, prepares to prove one of them wrong. Dawn breaks over the coral sea in a thin blade of orange light. The sky looks peaceful, almost gentle, but the carriers below are anything but calm. Deck crews stand ready. Pilots wait in their cockpits, hands tight on controls, eyes fixed ahead. Engines rumble, trembling through steel and bone. The moment arrives with the weight of history behind it. A scout plane, tiny against the vast sky, spots movement, shapes on the horizon, faint but unmistakable. The report flashes across command rooms. The enemy is there, the search is over, the battle has found its opening breath. Aboard one carrier, the launch order comes like a crack of thunder. Planes accelerate down the deck, wheels lifting just before reaching the edge. They rise into the morning sky in tight waves, fighters first, then dive bombers, then torpedo aircraft. Each pilot knows the stakes. This is the first real test of a carrier versus carrier strike. There is no precedent, no ancient lesson to lean on. They are writing the future with every second. The strike group spreads out, sunlight glinting off wings. Below, the sea reflects every aircraft like a second formation flying upside down. Altitude increases, engines scream higher. The search and destroy mission begins. The opposing fleet receives its own alarm minutes later. Lookouts shout sightings, officers rush to stations, carriers prepare to launch their counterstrike. The race is officially on. Whoever lands the first decisive blow will shape everything that follows. Far above the water, the first wave of attackers forms its assault pattern. The enemy escort ships come into view, grey silhouettes slicing through blue water. The carriers hide behind them, but not well enough. Pilots recognize the distinctive outlines immediately. They descend. The dive bombers break formation with violent precision, each aircraft peeling downward at impossible speed. The world becomes a blur of wind and metal. Pilots lock onto deck targets as the ocean spins upward. Anti-aircraft fire erupts, a sudden forest of black bursts reaching for them. Shrapnel cracks against wings. Cockpits vibrate from shock waves. Still, they press on. Torpedo planes skim the water's surface, engines straining as they line up their runs. The enemy turns sharply, trying to disrupt trajectories. Destroyers spew tracer fire, glowing streaks stitching the air. The torpedo planes fly straight into the storm. No evasive motion, no hesitation. They commit fully. Above all of this, fighters duel in swirling arcs. Machine gun bursts flash like sparks on steel. Pilots bank, roll, dive, trying to protect their bombers while stopping enemy interceptors. The sky becomes a tightening knot of speed and risk. One bomb strikes a carrier's deck. A burst of flame leaps upward. Smoke spills across the wind, trailing behind the wounded ship. A second explosion follows, then a third. The deck buckles but holds. Damaged crews rush forward, extinguishers in hand, training drilled into their muscles. The first strike is not decisive, but it is the beginning. Meanwhile, the enemy's counterattack is already inbound. Their aircraft emerge through scattered clouds, sunlight flashing across their wings. They descend fast, coordinated, determined to repay the blow. The defending fleet scrambles fighters. Sirens wail through corridors. Sailors run to stations. Anti-aircraft guns pivot skyward, their barrels tracking the incoming wave. Orders fly through the air. Brace, prepare, hold your fire until they're close. The attackers sweep in. Dive bombers scream downward, their sirens echoing across the sea. Torpedo planes split into two groups, attacking from opposite angles to trap the carriers. Fighters weave through the chaos, trying to break the incoming formation. One carrier becomes the center of the storm. Bombs fall around it, geysers of water rising like towers. Fragments rain across decks. A torpedo slams into its side, the impact shuddering through the hull. For a moment it looks as though the ship might stop dead in the water, but the engines continue to roar. The crew holds firm, fighting through smoke and flame. Explosions echo across the coral sea. Black pillars of smoke rise like scars on the horizon. The battle is no longer theoretical. It is brutally, vividly real. Yet neither side has landed the knockout blow. Both still have carriers afloat. Both still have air wings capable of lethal strikes. Both still believe victory is within reach. The opening clash is only the beginning. Smoke drifts across the sky like torn banners, marking where the first blows landed. But neither fleet pauses. Both know a battle of carriers is a battle of momentum. Lose a minute, lose the initiative. Commanders push their crews harder. Pilots sprint to their planes. Deck crews fuel, arm, and position aircraft with frantic precision. Another wave launches. Engines roar as fighters lift, followed by dive bombers climbing into the brightening sky. They disappear into clouds, wings flashing like blades. Below, carriers turn sharply, carving white arcs through the water to reposition for the next strike, and to avoid enemy torpedo patterns that might still be tracking them. Far above the sea, the incoming formation breaks through a billow of clouds and spots a distant shape. A carrier. Sunlight glints off its deck. Pilots tighten their formation. One breath in, one breath out, then they descend as one. Dive bombers roll into steep plunges, their altimeters spinning violently. Anti-aircraft guns open up immediately, filling the sky with dark blossoms of explosions. Pilots feel the concussions shake their ribs. Some bombers fall away, trailing smoke. Others press on, diving deeper. Bomb releases flash across multiple aircraft. The carrier below swerves, but large decks can only do so much. Bombs detonate across the forward section, blast waves rippling across steel plates. A fireball rises, but damaged crews respond instantly, sealing compartments, flooding sections, and forcing the flames downward. They've trained for this moment. Meanwhile, torpedo bombers split into two attack vectors, sweeping low and fast. The carrier escorts fire back with relentless intensity. Sea spray slaps cockpit windows. The torpedo planes drop their payloads and pull up sharply, engines screaming from the strain. Some make it out, some don't. A torpedo strikes an escorting cruiser. The hit reverberates through the ship, knocking sailors off their feet. Water pours into lower decks, yet the cruiser keeps firing, refusing to fall silent. The defenders stabilize, readying their own counterstrike, and they will not wait long. From the opposite horizon, yet another enemy wave approaches. Their scouts have found a second target group, one with ships more exposed. Pilots dive toward them without hesitation. This time their formations remain tight, unbroken by weather or enemy fighters. Confidence sharpens every movement. Bombers roll in at perfect angles, almost mathematical in precision. Anti-aircraft rounds burst too late or too early. The attackers slip between patterns and strike a carrier's stern. The explosion sends a column of smoke spiraling upward. A second bomb ignites fuel lines near the deck edge. Flames spread rapidly. For a moment it seems the carrier will be lost, but the crew fights as if the ship were alive. Hoses spray foaming arcs. Fire teams push forward through heat. Pilots still on board help haul equipment. Slowly the flames begin to shrink. The sky, however, refuses to quiet. Enemy fighters appear suddenly, streaking downward from high altitude. They ambush the returning bombers, raking them with machine gun fire. Several bombers fall into the sea. The rest scatter, trying desperately to regroup. The escort fighters dive into the fray, and a swirling sky duel erupts above burning ships. Below them, another torpedo run begins. The attackers approach at water level. They drop their torpedoes in perfect sequence. Destroyers rush forward to intercept. They fire wildly, creating a wall of water and steel. One torpedo slams into a destroyer's bow. Another runs deep and misses. A third tracks perfectly toward a carrier before a last-minute evasive turn saves it by mere meters. Every few seconds, a new explosion marks the sea. Every few moments, another plume of smoke stains the sky. Neither side steps back. The mid-morning sun climbs, but the light feels harsh, merciless. It shines on burning ships, falling aircraft, and the relentless cycles of attack and counterattack. Fleets maneuver with near-constant urgency, turning, twisting, anticipating, recalculating. Carriers are both predators and hunted prey. Still the balance is unbroken. One fleet has taken damage, but still floats. The other has landed blows, but none decisive. Both believe the next wave will tilt the scales, and that next wave is already forming. Pilots return to their decks, some limping with bullet holes in wings, others nearly out of fuel. They barely stop their aircraft before crews swarm them, refueling, rearming, checking controls. Pilots jump out, exchange quick reports, grab water, and run to new planes. There is no time to breathe. In the command rooms, commanders study updated reconnaissance reports, new sightings, new shadows on the horizon, possible carrier positions. The pieces move with accelerating speed. Someone will commit to the next strike, someone will overextend. Someone will expose an opening big enough to change the entire battle. The storm is intensifying. The sea churns beneath the carriers as both fleets maneuver aggressively, trying to outposition each other. Every ship turns sharply, leaving long white wakes across deep blue water. The sky above them tells a different story, a swirling chaos of smoke columns, drifting debris, and distant flashes of impact. It feels as though the coral sea itself is holding its breath. High above, another strike group glides across broken clouds. These pilots know they're entering the most dangerous window of the battle. Both fleets have already bled. Both are desperate. That makes the next exchange even deadlier. Their scout plane suddenly signals, "Enemy carrier sighted." The formation tightens instantly. They descend through a turbulent patch of clouds and emerge into open sky straight above a formation of enemy ships. Fighters peel off to intercept defenders. Dive bombers climb, wings trembling. Torpedo planes level low, barely meters above the water. The attack begins. Dive bombers tip forward into sharp, punishing dives. Wind tears at their wings. Anti-aircraft bursts bloom around them like black flowers. Fragments rattle metal skins. Some bombers burst into flame mid-dive, falling past their comrades in smoking spirals. The rest push deeper. Bomb after bomb plunges downward. Explosions ripple across the sea. A carrier takes a hit near its deck edge, fire leaps outward. The ship lists slightly, but keeps moving. Another bomb misses by meters, throwing a towering plume of water over the flight deck. Below, torpedo planes sweep in. Their approach is low and dangerous, every second a gamble. They release their torpedoes and pull up violently. Destroyers race to intercept. A torpedo strikes one square in the midsection. Water surges into the hull. The ship rolls but continues firing, refusing to yield. The carrier, however, performs an evasive maneuver so sharp it leaves the water churned white. The remaining torpedoes pass harmlessly behind it. The attackers curse, circle upward, and retreat toward a safer altitude. Enemy fighters arrive moments later. They dive in from above silent until the final second. Their guns blaze. The sky becomes a spiraling ballet of dodges, chases, and sudden breaks. Bombers weave desperately. Fighters twist through tight arcs to defend them. Some aircraft trail smoke. Some fall into the sea below. The duel leaves the sky littered with drifting fragments. The attackers withdraw, battered but not broken. Their strike has dented the enemy but not stopped the fleet's ability to fight. On the opposite horizon, another battle is about to erupt. A fresh wave of enemy planes barrels across the water. Their silhouettes appear small at first, just specks in the sunlight. But they grow larger, sharper, faster. Lookouts shout warnings. Sirens echo across decks. Anti-aircraft crews take position. Pilots sprint for their fighters. It's a perfect ambush window right as the fleet is recovering from launching its own planes. The attackers reach firing range. Bombers break into steep dives. Torpedo planes press forward from low altitude. A carrier becomes the centerpiece of the assault. Bombs fall in quick succession, exploding around it like hammer blows. One bomb strikes near the forward elevator. Fire bursts outward in a violent flash. The deck trembles. Damage crews rush forward instantly. They drag hoses, connect pumps, and surge into the smoke. The flames spread rapidly, but are met with relentless, disciplined force. Within minutes, the worst of the fire is pushed back. But the torpedo attack is still coming. 2 torpedo planes break off, heading straight for the wounded carrier's starboard side. They drop their torpedoes and climb sharply. The carrier turns hard, too hard. Its hull shudders. One torpedo misses narrowly. The second slams into an escort destroyer that interposes itself at the last moment. The destroyer shakes violently, nearly rolling. Water floods compartments, yet the ship holds its course and continues firing even as smoke pours from its side. The attacking wave pulls away, regrouping as they climb. The fleet below breathes a momentary sigh of relief, but only a moment. Because new reports arrive instantly. More aircraft inbound. More enemies in the sky. More blows coming. The Coral Sea is now a battlefield with no boundaries. The air war stretches across hundreds of miles, yet every moment feels intimate, close, personal, razor-edged. Pilots fight for survival in duels where a single misstep means disappearance into the endless water below. Down on the carriers, commanders realize the next minutes may decide the entire battle. Fuel is running low. Ammunition is thinning. Pilots are exhausted. But both sides still have one final heavy strike preparing to launch. Someone will commit their reserves. Someone will take the greater risk. Someone will roll the dice that might win or lose the battle. The tension is unbearable, and the storm is still rising. The ocean roars as if awakened. Waves buckle under the shock of detonations dropping from the sky. Torpedo wakes slash across the surface, white scars racing toward steel hulls. Above, dive bombers spiral downward like falling stars, engines screaming, wings trembling under the strain of gravity and gunfire. The battle has fully ignited. On the decks of a carrier, crews sprint between explosions. Smoke billows from ruptured plating, turning daylight into a grim haze. Fire control teams unleash streams of suppressant foam, trying to smother flames that leap higher with every blast. Pilots returning from their first strike find the once stable runway now a jagged landscape. Some circle desperately, low on fuel. Others attempt impossible landings, scraping metal on fire-blackened decks. Far away, hidden by the curvature of the earth, enemy squadrons carry out their own assault. Their carrier decks shudder under the weight of exploding bombs. Shrapnel tears through antennas, railings, and human bodies alike. Alarms blare. Damage control officers shout orders over the roar of ruptured steam pipes. The sea around the ship becomes littered with burning debris planes, lifeboats, fragments of hull floating like ghosts of machines that once held life. In the sky, the air war becomes a storm all its own. Fighters twist and tumble in chaotic duels. tracers carving glowing lines across the blue. A pilot locks onto a target, pulls the trigger only to feel rounds slam into his own fuselage a second later. Parachutes blossom, some open, some don't. Then, a bomb finds its mark. A carrier erupts, not in a single explosion, but in a chained, rolling thunder of violence that consumes everything from the hangar to the command deck. The shockwave shoves nearby destroyers sideways. A pillar of fire rises so high it smears the sky with soot. For a heartbeat, even the battle seems to pause. Then it resumes, louder, faster, fiercer. The sea between the fleets turns into a battlefield without borders. Torpedoes bloom into geysers. Anti-aircraft guns spit fire until their barrels glow red. Pilots push their machines to the limit, knowing fuel is thinning, knowing another squadron is already lining up behind them. And through it all, the question grows heavier. Who will break first? The ships, the crews, or the sky itself? The battle deepens. What began as scattered strikes now becomes a sustained, merciless exchange. Every minute brings a new shock, a new loss, a new scream swallowed by wind and fire. A squadron of torpedo bombers skims the waves, flying so low their propellers spray mist behind them. Anti-aircraft guns track them relentlessly. Shells burst around the formation, black puffs, then orange bursts, then shrapnel slicing through wings. One plane catches fire, but keeps going, the pilot refusing to break formation. Another takes a direct hit and slams into the sea, vanishing in a pillar of spray. But the survivors push on. They release their torpedoes. Silver shapes drop, plunge, stabilize, then streak toward the hulls of enemy carriers. A carrier tries to dodge, tilting hard to port. Its bow cuts the sea like a knife, engines roaring in protest. Escorts rush forward, trying to intercept the incoming torpedoes with gunfire. But you can't shoot down the ocean. One torpedo detonates against a destroyer's side, tearing a crater in the hull and sending the ship listing dangerously. Another slips beneath the carrier. A thunderous blast erupts. Water and steel fly upward together. The carrier shudders as if struck by a hammer from the deep. Inside the vessel, chaos spreads like wildfire. Corridors fill with smoke. Sailors stumble through flickering lights. Sprinkler systems rage overhead as officers bellow orders drowned by the roar of ruptured bulkheads. In the engine room, heat becomes unbearable, machinery screams, metal warps, and the floor trembles with every secondary explosion. Above deck, the sky darkens with a fresh wave of attackers. Dive bombers peel from the clouds like hawks. Their sirens wail, slicing through nerves already frayed. The carrier's anti-aircraft batteries fire non-stop shells, spraying upward, tracers weaving a desperate cage of light, but too many bombers break through. One pilot commits. He angles straight down. The deck rushes up beneath him. His bomb releases at the final heartbeat. He pulls back too late. The impact sends a fireball rolling across the flight deck, engulfing aircraft, fuel lines, and men who have no time to run. Heat washes across the sea. Black smoke rises so thick it blots out the sun. And still the battle refuses to let up. More planes dive. More torpedoes launch. More guns scream until the barrels glow like coals. Across the horizon, both fleets are bleeding. Ships limp. Radios crackle with frantic distress calls. Medics drag the wounded across slippery decks stained with oil and blood. Pilots, exhausted and half-deaf, struggle to coordinate through the din of warfare that seems intent on swallowing everything. The question now is no longer who will strike next, but who can survive the next strike. The battle rages at full fury now, no pauses, no silence, no breath. Just the endless grind of steel, fire, and willpower. On the horizon, a damaged carrier lists slightly, trailing smoke like a black comet across the sea. Yet its flight deck remains stubbornly alive. Crews sprint through fire, pushing aircraft into position, shouting over the roar of burning fuel. Pilots climb into cockpits still warm from earlier strikes. No one waits, no one hesitates, they launch. A fresh wave of fighters and bombers tears down the deck and bursts into the sky, engines howling. They rise through smoke columns, through pockets of turbulence created by the heat of burning ships, then spread wide like an iron flock. Their target is already in sight, an enemy carrier still untouched, gleaming in the distance, launching its own aircraft in retaliation. The two waves collide. Fighter escorts dive into each other head first. Machine guns spit lines of fire. Planes spiral downward, trailing smoke, wings torn, engines coughing their last. Pilots fight with every ounce of nerve rolling, climbing, spinning away from tracer rounds that cut the air like invisible blades. Below them, the bombers press on. They break formation. They commit to the strike. Enemy flak erupts around them, steel flowers blooming in mid-air. Bombers shake violently, buffeted by shockwaves. One is ripped in half by a direct hit. Another limps forward with only one engine, the pilot gripping the controls with white-knuckled resolve. But enough of them survive. They begin their dives. The enemy carrier grows larger in the cockpit glass. Deck crews scatter. Alarms wail across the ship. Fire control officers shout vectors. Anti-aircraft batteries buckle under the strain as they unleash everything they have left. Bombs fall. The first detonates near the bow, tearing open the deck. The second hits dead center, sending flames shooting skyward. The third rips through the rear elevator, engulfing the hangar below in a storm of burning fuel and ammunition. The ship shudders. It groans. It begins to die. Aboard its decks, officers fight to contain the inferno. Sailors drag hoses through choking smoke. Explosions echo below as aircraft cook off one by one. Yet even in these final moments, the carrier refuses to surrender. Radios crackle with a desperate last transmission status, damage reports, strike coordination clinging to purpose even as the sea claims it inch by inch. Across the battlefield, both sides now bear deep scars. Flame-lit pillars of smoke tower above shattered ships. Oil blazes dance on the waves. Aircraft wreckage drifts like broken wings across the water. Everyone understands. The next exchange could end the battle. One mistake, one lucky hit, one moment of hesitation, and everything will flip. Admiral Frank Jack Fletcher stands over the chart table aboard USS Yorktown. His face is calm, but his eyes reveal the weight of the moment. Reports spill in positions, losses, aircraft counts, fuel levels. But one message cuts through the noise. Enemy carriers tracked, bearing southeast. It's the opening he has been waiting for. Fletcher makes a quiet decision, almost whispered, "Strike before they strike again." Nearby officers lock eyes. That single call will determine the fate of both fleets. This is the moment when the initiative changes hands, if the attack can be launched in time. On the flight deck, pilots gather around their squadron leaders. Sweat streaks down faces blackened by smoke and oil. Mechanics rush between aircraft, checking fuel lines, tightening bolts, loading bombs and torpedoes with trembling urgency. Commander Clarence Wade McCluskey, a man known for his calm under fire, delivers a short order. "We may not get another chance. Make it count." No shouting, no dramatics, just conviction. Engines roar to life. The deck vibrates as propellers bite the air. Fletcher's gamble is moving from thought to reality. If these planes fail, the battle is lost. The strike group lifts from the deck and rises into a sky still smeared with the smoke of burning ships. They form up, flying southeast, toward the faint, uncertain coordinates. Below them, the coral sea gleams deceptively calm. Minutes stretch into hours. McCluskey scans the ocean, but the target refuses to appear. Fuel gauges creep lower. Some pilots glance nervously at one another. They know what low fuel means out here, ditching into open sea. Then McCluskey spots something, a thin wake cutting the water, a lone destroyer racing north at full speed. He makes the call instantly. Follow her. She's running home. It is an intuitive leap, one later called a commander's instinct. The destroyer's wake leads them like a breadcrumb trail across the water. The pilots lean forward, eyes narrowed, scanning the horizon. And then, a faint smudge far ahead. Another, then shapes. 2 Japanese carriers, Shokaku, Zuikaku, perfectly positioned for a full strike. McCluskey lowers his goggles. All units prepare for attack. This is the moment the entire battle has been building toward. The dive begins. Bombers tilt downward, engines screaming as they slice through the upper clouds into clear open air. Anti-aircraft guns on the Japanese carriers swivel upward in a frantic rush. The carrier Shokaku is caught mid-turn. Aircraft clutter the deck. Crews scatter in confusion as the American formation angles in at near-vertical descent. One pilot later said, "It felt like falling into the heart of a sun." Bombs release. The first detonates along the forward deck, ripping apart aircraft parked nose to tail. A second crashes through steel plating, exploding deep inside the hangar. Flames roar upward like a living creature. Shokaku is burning, badly. Meanwhile, the second American group attacks Zuikaku, but fate deals a different hand. Clouds roll in at the wrong moment. The carrier disappears into shifting mist. Bombers circle, search, strain their eyes, but the target is swallowed by weather. No clean dive, no shot. Some planes release their bombs blindly, others hold. Soon, fuel forces a retreat. Historians later remarked, Zuikaku survived by luck, timing, and the sky itself. One carrier crippled, the other untouched. Has the momentum truly shifted? Back aboard the Japanese flagship, Rear Admiral Takeo Takagi receives the damage reports. Shokaku, severely hit, listing, fires raging. Flight deck unusable, air operations halted. He makes the hard call. Withdraw her. But Zuikaku still has her full air group in the sky. Dozens of aircraft circle, waiting for orders. Takagi knows what he must do. Prepare a counterstrike. If Zuikaku can land a decisive hit, the scales may still tilt back. The Coral Sea holds its breath. Japanese aircraft surge toward the last known position of the American carriers. Pilots steady themselves, knowing this strike may decide everything. But the Americans are moving too. Fletcher anticipates the counterattack. He adjusts course, redistributes anti-air defenses, and prepares Yorktown and Lexington for the storm. Both fleets are bruised and bleeding, yet neither is ready to yield. A Japanese pilot later recalled, "The sky felt heavy as if it knew what was coming." Moments later, the two strike groups find each other. In the mid-air tangle that follows, chaos reigns. Fighters weave through each other, trading bursts of gunfire. Bombers push desperately through the defensive screen. Some fall, some slip through. One Japanese dive bomber commits to a steep plunge toward Lexington. Despite relentless flak, he locks on, releases his bomb, and pulls away at the last possible second. The explosion rocks the carrier, throwing men off their feet. Fires leap across the deck, damage crews rush in. But Lexington, Lady Lex, does not break, for now. This near miss reveals the truth. The slightest error could cost the entire battle. Just as the Japanese prepare a second strike, their reconnaissance blinks. They lose track of Yorktown. Clouds distort shadows. Radar readings fluctuate. Fuel grows low. Time runs out. Their attack window closes. A historian later noted, "In naval aviation, minutes can equal victory." The combination of Shokaku burning, Zuikaku cloud-blinded, and the Japanese strike group unable to locate the American fleet becomes the true pivot of Coral Sea. The Americans have seized the initiative. The Japanese have lost their chance. The turning point has arrived. The Coral Sea grows quiet after days of chaos. Smoke drifts across the waves in long grey ribbons. Oil slicks shimmer like dark mirrors. Wreckage wood, steel, fragments of aircraft floats in slow circles, carried by the gentle current. Both fleets pull back to count their losses, to breathe, to understand what has happened. The battle is over, but its consequences are only beginning. The Americans review the damage first. USS Lexington, despite surviving the initial strikes, succumbs hours later to spreading fires deep within her hull. Her crew evacuates reluctantly, leaving behind a ship that had carried them through countless drills, storms, and hopes. Moments after the last men depart, the great carrier slips beneath the surface, disappearing with a quiet final bow. USS Yorktown, though battered, remains afloat. Her deck is dented, her hull scorched, but her engines still breathe. Damage crews work tirelessly patching metal, restoring power, checking every inch of wiring. Yorktown will fight again, and soon. On the Japanese side, the shock is just as heavy. Shokaku, her decks mangled and fires scorched into her frame, limps toward home. She remains seaworthy, but utterly incapable of launching or recovering aircraft. Repairs will take weeks, maybe longer. Zuikaku returns with her hull pristine, but her air group shattered. Too many experienced pilots lost, too many aircraft shot down. She will need time to rebuild squadrons, retrain crews, regain rhythm. Between the two carriers, Japan loses something far more precious than steel: momentum. Officially, the Japanese sink more tonnage. Lexington, a major carrier, rests on the ocean floor. Several destroyers and tankers share the same fate. On paper, Japan can argue a tactical victory, but in broader terms, the strategic weight tilts differently. The Japanese advance toward Port Moresby 1, step away from threatening Australia halts. Their ability to project force across the Coral Sea evaporates. Their carrier strength, previously unmatched, suddenly wavers. The Americans, despite their losses, retain the capacity to challenge, disrupt, and respond. Yorktown alone keeps an entire theater from collapsing. What matters isn't who lost more steel, but who lost more opportunity. Japan's plan to invade Port Moresby depended on air cover from its carriers. Without Shokaku and Zuikaku operational, the invasion force can no longer move safely. The Japanese command issues the reluctant order, abort. It is the first major expansion halted since the start of the war. A subtle shift, but one that resonates deeply. In headquarters rooms far from the battlefield, analysts circle new possibilities on maps. Supply lines once under constant threat suddenly look more secure. Australia, previously bracing for the worst, breathes a cautious sigh. Coral Sea proves that Japan can be stopped. Beyond the immediate situation, the battle highlights the fragile balance of carrier warfare. For the first time in history, two fleets fight without ever seeing each other. No battleships clash, no guns trade salvos. Only planes, hundreds of them, cross the ocean like guided thunder. The lesson is unmistakable. Carriers, not battleships, now rule the sea. Japan, once confident in the speed of its expansions, suddenly sees how vulnerable its carriers can be. One bomb, one torpedo, one misjudged maneuver can shift the entire war. The Americans, meanwhile, recognize the immense value of air power. Coral Sea becomes a blueprint: imperfect, chaotic, costly, but powerful, and that blueprint will shape the next great clash. Yorktown returns to Pearl Harbor looking wounded but alive. Engineers estimate months of repairs, but intelligence reports arrive with shocking urgency. A major Japanese operation is forming near Midway. There is no time. Repair crews swarm over Yorktown day and night. Welding torches glow against the night sky. Cranes swing endlessly. Mechanics work until their arms shake. In what many call a miracle of logistics, Yorktown is restored to fighting condition in less than 3 days. She sails out again, straight into the next decisive confrontation. Without Coral Sea, she wouldn't have been there. Both sides measure the human cost with somber respect. Pilots who never returned. Sailors who worked through fire until the last second. Officers who made impossible decisions under crushing pressure. The numbers tell one story. The faces tell another. For the Americans, the loss of Lexington weighs heavily. She was one of their earliest carriers, a symbol of expanding capability. Many of her crew spread across other ships, carrying memories of her decks with them. For Japan, the loss of skilled pilots is devastating. Unlike ships, pilots cannot be replaced quickly. Training takes time, experience even more. Some historians later note, Japan lost not just aircraft, but the irreplaceable hands that flew them. Morale shifts in unexpected ways. Japan, though still powerful and aggressive, feels the sting of uncertainty for the first time. Commanders begin to sense that future battles may not unfold as smoothly as before. Doubt, subtle but real, settles in. For the Americans, Coral Sea offers something invaluable: proof of capability. They now believe they can contest the Pacific. They can strike. They can endure. Even in loss, they can win strategically. Every sailor, every pilot, every mechanic who participated walks away knowing they played a part in stopping the largest expansion seen in the Pacific to date. That knowledge fuels confidence. Confidence fuels resolve. Throughout the Pacific, nations watch closely. Allies note the shift with relief. Neutral observers record the battle with fascination. Even distant theaters feel a whisper of change. Carriers will decide the future. Air power will dictate supply lines. Intelligence will shape victory before a single shot is fired. Coral Sea marks the end of an era and the opening of a new one. An era in which battles can be won or lost before fleets ever make visual contact. The Pacific, vast as it is, suddenly feels smaller, its fate more intertwined. Looking back, historians often describe Coral Sea with words like strategic hinge, subtle victory, or the battle that changed direction without changing the scoreboard. But its true impact is simple. It stops a major offensive. It weakens two critical Japanese carriers. It preserves an American carrier needed for Midway. It proves Japan can be checked without total destruction, and it reshapes naval warfare permanently. The Coral Sea becomes a warning and a lesson, one that will echo just weeks later when the two navies meet again, not in drifting fog and broken clouds, but at a place called Midway. The Battle of the Coral Sea stands as a turning point, not because one fleet triumphed decisively, but because it revealed a new form of warfare, one shaped by distance, intelligence, and precision. To understand Coral Sea is to understand the modern logic of conflict. Decisions made far from the guns can determine who fires first, who survives, and who controls the horizon. Coral Sea confirmed what strategists had begun to suspect. The battleship era was fading. The aircraft carrier, once experimental, now dictated outcomes. Commanders who understood this shift, who embraced mobility, timing, and air power, held the future. Traditional naval doctrine relied on line-of-battle formations, direct gun duels, and massed steel. Coral Sea shattered those assumptions. Fleets never visually sighted each other. Victory depended on the ability to locate the enemy first and strike from beyond the horizon. It was chess, not slugging match, and in chess awareness is everything. Commanders on both sides faced unprecedented demands. Decision cycles became shorter. Minutes mattered. A delayed launch, a misread signal, a hesitant maneuver, any of these could doom a carrier. American leaders showed adaptability, adjusting formations as intelligence shifted. Japanese leaders demonstrated boldness, launching aggressive strikes despite incomplete information. Neither side commanded perfectly, but both displayed acute awareness of the stakes. Leadership during Coral Sea meant balancing aggression with restraint, intuition with analysis. The sea punished every misjudgment, but it rewarded clarity. One of Coral Sea's critical lessons lies in the power of intelligence. American codebreakers, working tirelessly in dimly lit rooms, provided fragments of truth just enough to predict Japanese intentions. These insights allowed U.S. carriers to move into position before Japan expected them. Without this advantage, the Americans might have faced an overwhelming surprise attack. Instead, they shaped the battlefield. Intelligence didn't guarantee victory, but it granted opportunity. Coral Sea proves that understanding the enemy's mind can be as decisive as destroying the enemy's ships. Carrier warfare demands motion. Static fleets invite disaster. Coral Sea demonstrated that survival depended on constant repositioning launching aircraft, recovering them, striking, scattering, regrouping. Even small delays had cascading effects. A late launch might miss its target. A misaligned recovery deck could cost precious planes. A miscalculated wind angle could cripple an entire strike wave. In this environment, flexibility became a currency. Commanders who adapted quickly had a chance. Those who clung to rigid doctrine risked collapse. No battle unfolds flawlessly. Coral Sea was shaped by errors on both sides, misinterpretations, false sightings, strikes launched at the wrong targets. American aircraft at times attacked secondary ships, unaware that carriers lurked just beyond cloud cover. Japanese reconnaissance missed key opportunities to locate Yorktown early. Communication failures turned precise plans into chaotic improvisations. Yet these mistakes revealed the truth. Real war defies perfect planning. Commanders must make decisions in fog, not clarity. Coral Sea shows how even flawed actions can still lead to strategic success if the underlying vision remains sound. Despite the machinery, the engines, the bombs, the radar, the battle's outcome hinged on human skill. Pilots executing near-impossible dives, damage control teams racing into smoke-choked compartments, signalmen relaying critical commands under pressure. Technology extended capability, but humans delivered results. Coral Sea reminds us that courage, discipline, and training matter even when machines dominate the battlefield. The carriers were symbols, the people were the heart. Japan's losses extended beyond damaged carriers. They lost irreplaceable pilotsmen, whose experience could not be duplicated in weeks or even months. Coral Sea exposed a structural weakness. Their training pipeline could not replenish skilled aviators fast enough. America, while also suffering heavy casualties, had a more resilient system. Their ability to repair Yorktown in mere days showed logistical strength few expected. The battle demonstrated that wars are won not just through bravery or firepower, but through the capacity to endure loss and rebuild. Coral Sea didn't destroy fleets. It reshaped momentum. Japan's expansion paused for the first time. The aura of inevitability surrounding their advances cracked. For the United States, the battle offered a preview of what determination and intelligence could achieve. The Pacific was no longer a space they were losing, it was a space they could contest. This shift in balance, intangible but powerful, set the stage for the dramatic confrontation soon to come at Midway. War is not precision, it is uncertainty. Coral Sea illustrated how weather patterns, sighting reports, cloud cover, and timing shaped outcomes as much as tactics. A few minutes of delay could mean missing a carrier by miles. A sudden bank of clouds could shield one fleet while exposing another. A single torpedo that failed to detonate might decide the survival of a ship. Some historians later suggested Coral Sea was a battle where chance refused to pick a favorite. Luck didn't choose the victor. It simply complicated everything. Coral Sea acted as a testing ground for new technologies, radar-guided detection, advanced dive-bombing techniques, coordinated strike groups. Some worked flawlessly, others faltered, but every attempt generated valuable lessons. The American ability to coordinate multiple squadrons across vast distances marked a significant operational leap. Japanese precision in dive bombing remained unmatched, even under immense pressure. The battle revealed that technological innovation alone wasn't enough. Mastery of that technology defined success. Modern historians often debate Coral Sea's legacy. Some view it as a strategic American victory. Others emphasize Japanese tactical success. Many argue it is a hybrid, neither clean victory nor defeat, but a critical inflection point. What unites them is agreement on its importance. Coral Sea redirects the flow of the Pacific War, proving that resilience and foresight can overcome even early disadvantages. From archives to academies, the battle is studied not for its spectacle, but for its lessons. Leaders in Coral Sea had to act amid uncertainty. They had to trust reports that might be flawed, launch strikes on glimpses, and commit forces to battles they couldn't see with their own eyes. Their decisions underscored timeless lessons. Decisiveness matters, preparation matters, adaptation matters more. The ability to make clear decisions under pressure, to calculate risk and act anyway, is what separates survivors from casualties in carrier warfare. Coral Sea doesn't end the conflict. It sharpens it. It creates conditions damaged carriers, depleted pilots, shaken confidence that directly influenced the Battle of Midway. Japan enters Midway with fewer operational carriers than planned. The US enters with Yorktown repaired against all odds. The psychological balance also shifts. One side now questions its invincibility, while the other believes in its rising strength. Coral Sea is not a prelude. It is the hinge upon which Midway swings. Ultimately, Coral Sea reminds us that victory isn't always measured by ships sunk or claimed kills. Sometimes victory lies in momentum denied, objectives disrupted, and the future reshaped quietly rather than loudly. The battle proves that strategy can matter more than spectacle, that endurance can outweigh aggression, and that even costly engagements can carry profound long-term value. Coral Sea stands as a testament to how wars often turn, not through single decisive moments alone, but through sequences of battles that nudge history toward its next chapter. The ocean settles, but its silence feels heavier than thunder. The waters that once churned with fire and steel now reflect only drifting smoke, scattered debris, and the invisible weight of decisions made under impossible pressure. This is where the echoes of Coral Sea linger, not as noise but as questions. What does it mean to stand firm at the edge of the unknown? What does it take to change the course of a war without ever seeing the enemy face to face? You watched carriers strike from beyond the horizon. You witnessed commanders gamble fleets on fragments of intelligence. You saw aviators rise into skies they knew they might never return from. And now, as the waves calm, their stories settle into the vast, unbroken memory of the Pacific. This battle did not end with triumphal shouts or decisive victory banners. It ended with realization raw, undeniable, that naval warfare had crossed a threshold. Distance no longer meant safety. Speed no longer guaranteed survival. The battlefield itself had transformed, and with it, the war. And so we return to the opening question. What happens when history pivots not on a single ship sunk, but on a new form of power unleashed? Coral Sea answered with a whisper that rippled into a roar heard across every ocean. Adaptation decides destiny. Thank you for watching, History Warriors. If this journey pulled you into the cockpit, onto the carrier deck, or into the map rooms where the fate of oceans was written, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe to join the next expedition. What topic should we dive into next? Tell me below and Knightley will bring it to life.